All right, welcome back to another episode of the Pin High podcast presented by Pin High Media. So this week we got Mr. Style, former fashion director of Golf Digest, Marty Hackel, on the podcast. And there's going to be 2 episodes this week. So this one's coming out on Monday, and then we have the next one coming out on Wednesday for the Century.
This is Jordan Spieth here, and
this is the Pin High podcast.
Great interview with Marty Hackel, talking pretty much everything there is to talk about in like the golf fashion world. He talked about Dustin Johnson and how he's kind of like responsible for, the reason he wears all one color. Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, we talk it all. So before we get into that, quick little shout out to our sponsor, Rhoback. You can see right now, me and Jeek both have the Rhoback hoodies on.
I got one for Christmas.
Oh, I did as well.
So amazing.
I have a gray one. Yep. No, the Rhoback hoodies, I mean, I can't say enough about like the polos and the hats and everything else as well. But the hoodies, I think, have to be their best piece of merchandise. Yeah. A Pin High hoodie would be honestly the best thing.
Oh, sweet.
That I've
just a little logo, like right in the corner where the Rhoback logo is, or on the opposite side.
Exactly.
So
anyway, to get 15% off, so you can buy one of the hoodies for yourself, or one of their many other things, go to the link in our bio, and you will add something to your cart and automatically get 15% off. There's no promo code. So let's get into the interview with Marty Hackel. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Pin High podcast. We're joined here by Marty Hackel, former fashion director at Golf Digest. Welcome to the podcast.
Nice to be with you.
So first off, I just kind of want to start this off with a simple question of how does one even kind of get into the industry that you are in? Like, what led to you becoming the fashion director at Golf Digest? What did you do beforehand?
Well, I would say that I had a lot of luck and I was at the right place at the right time. I'm really a merchant, I guess, by career. I spent a long time at Neiman Marcus in Dallas, Texas, and I left there and ran a company called Bottega Veneta. That sold wonderful women's fashionable handbags and luggage and briefcases. Then I ran a company called Alexander Julian, a menswear company. And that was right about in the middle of the 90s. And about in the middle of the 90s, I discovered golf. Or maybe golf discovered me, but it seemed that all of my friends were spending all of their weekends on the golf course. And I wanted to hang out with them. And I thought, well, okay, I'll try this game. But is it really a game? You can smoke. You can drink. I mean, that doesn't sound like a game. That sounds like a hobby.
Yeah, I
know.
I guess you figured out why all your friends are on the golf course every weekend after that.
I feel like at our age, like we just graduated college and we've been golfing, for Trevor's been golfing his whole life. And me and Greg have been golfing, since like around high school. But all of our friends now are kind of figuring out like what you basically figured out then, that and they're starting to get into the game.
Oh, geez, I wish I had learned that earlier. And one of my friends worked at a company called Condé Nast. And Condé Nast had lots of really cool magazines, Vanity Fair and Vogue and GQ and cool stuff. And Mitch was a golfing buddy and a great guy who I had known from my days at Neiman's, and he was at Bergdorf's. And we decided, maybe we should start a buying service in the golf industry where we were hired by clubs and we went into the marketplace and we found great merchandise for these clubs, not necessarily golf wear, just great sportswear. And, we kind of put everything together and packaged it for the clubs. We would go in and teach the kids who were working in the golf shops a little bit about the merchandise, a little bit about fashion. We would help them with the displays. So we thought we had a hot smoking business concept. And then one day Mitch called and said, oh, by the way, my company has just purchased from the New York Times Golf Digest magazine. And I went, oh God, that big, huge thing that comes out every month in those days was probably 225.
I'm not sure I understand.
Sorry, Siri, just don't butt in anymore. I thought, well, this would be a really, really, really cool thing, Mitch, and you should, you should have some fun with this. Well, he called the next day and said, yeah, well, seems like we bought it, and it seems like I'm now the CEO of Golf Digest companies. So I said, all right, stand by. Let me grab all of my issues. I, like most people, at the turn of the century, if you will, I kept every Golf Digest issue that I ever purchased or received before I started subscribing, because as a starting golfer, that was more or less my reference point. That was my place to read every month about how not to hit that big slice and how to improve my putting and how to hit it 10 yards further. So I had a big stack of Golf Digests, and I sat down and I just looked at the covers and I started making notes. Well, David Ledbetter's pants are up around his neck. Butch Harmon, geez, Butch Harmon's shirt, 2 sizes too big. And I just went from cover to cover, and then I started looking in the issue, and I said, I love everything that you're doing, but I think you could enhance the presentation of all of that if you dressed any of the people you were photographing in the right size with appropriate and stylish clothes. And Mitch thought, yeah, Marty, that's a great idea, but you're going to have to sell that to the people, who run the magazine day in and day out, the editor-in-chief and the managing editors and the instruction editor and the travel editor and all of those people. So I started going to lunch with the whole team at Golf Digest, one by one. And then finally, one day, weeks later, they called and said, we think your idea makes some sense. Why don't you come here and we'll create a post called the fashion director, and you can oversee sort of fashion and style for Golf Digest and for Golf World, because in those days, Golf World was a weekly, and it was, it was the news part of sort of, the golf industry. Well, I'll tell you, it took me maybe 2 seconds to say yes. And so I joined Golf Digest, And then for the next year, I kept explaining to people, yes, well, I'm only responsible for how people look. I'm just trying to make people look as good as they can look. You know, and these companies would come in and they'd have meetings with the equipment people and everyone. And then on their way out, they'd get introduced to me and they go, "You're what? Fashion what?"
Yeah. So
Fashion?
I'm assuming that position just didn't exist. Not like, I guess it existed in other industries, but for sure not the golf industry.
Yeah, exactly. So we sort of pioneered it. In the first year, I went to probably 25 tournaments. And all I did was walk up and down the range, spent a lot of time at the putting green, got to meet some of the pros. You know, our instruction editors were there and they would introduce me, and, you know, most of the pros said the same thing. Style editor, fashion editor, huh? And then one guy, Steve Elkington, said to me, "Hey, yeah, you know, come on, let's have a coffee. I want to talk to you a little bit about fashion, you know. I'm pretty particular about what I wear and how it looks." And I went, "Oh, geez, I finally found someone who understands what I'm talking about." You know, and then suddenly he introduced me to Scott McCarron. And then, you know, I started meeting more and more of the guys on tour. Well, after, you know, a year of going to maybe 20, 25 tournaments, you know, the players started to get used to the fact, oh yeah, that's the style guy. Just, you know what? This is all that I have today that's clean. That's why I'm wearing this. Don't get on my case. And, you know, slowly but surely we got to meet everyone. And in those days, Tiger was wearing, this is 2002, Tiger was wearing pants that had pleats like the drapes in your grandmother's home. He had super oversized pants that he was secretly getting made at Michael Jordan's tailor. And it was a full cut. And I remember saying to him at one of the first shoots that I worked with, "You know, Tiger, your dating life could improve dramatically if you started wearing flat front pants and clothes that fit you because you're in great shape. Why are you hiding that?" So if you go and look at a lot of the old images of Tiger from the early 2000s, you'll see he was swimming in those shirts. Now, of course, he had a reason for that, and that's that Earl, his dad, was a little bit on the thrifty side, I guess we would say. And Earl didn't want Tiger spending a lot of money buying clothes. So Earl would give Tiger his golf shirts. Well, Earl was wearing an extra large. So Tiger got used to wearing an extra large shirt. And, you know, like most athletes, once you get into a certain routine and you want things that are familiar, because, you know, you can deal with familiar. And that fit was a familiar fit for Tiger. So that's what he went with. Well, you all know the rest of the story.
Yeah, how quickly did
he sorted that out?
How quickly after you said that do you think he switched over the more tight-fitting clothing?
Well, I would say maybe 8 months, 9 months.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly was a process. And, you know, he's still giving me the same grief he was giving me back then. Like, oh, geez, oh, whoa, every time I would see him. And of course, he'd always have some comment about what I was wearing, which was usually something like red pants or a bright yellow shirt, He'd always thought that I looked like some sort of signal on the highway or a safety cone or something.
And so if you said, Earl was passing him down shirts at this point, and so I guess that begs the question, like, what were people's endorsement deals like back then with like any brands like giving them clothing, if any at all?
Oh, well, Tiger signed a deal with Nike pretty quickly once he became a pro. And Nike started, providing everything for Tiger. And I would say that Tiger's appreciation of good fit was not just the result of me making comments. I think the team at Nike also recognized, this is a great athlete we're dealing with here, and we can, help him look like a world-class athlete. And in those days, in the beginning, you could sense there was something special about Tiger. If you stood on the range and you were blindfolded and you listened really carefully, you could tell exactly where Tiger was standing and where he was hitting balls, because the sound of the golf ball coming off his club was different than anyone else. So, we knew we were in rare air when it came to Tiger, and, the rest is history.
Right. And he's also, back then, he also occasionally, I don't know at what point he stopped, was wearing, the straw bucket hat, the gold chain. He was wearing some really ridiculous stuff.
Back in his amateur days, for sure, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
but
the pleated pants
when he won the amateur, remember he had that straw hat on. He looked like he was on vacation.
Striped shirt, the big stripes.
Yep. But he was still golfing that ball pretty well then. I mean, he had some pretty memorable, experiences. And then he went to Stanford for a while. And, I think that, playing on the collegiate team also had a bit of influence, in his style. Not that he was taking a lot of notes from Nota Begay, but, he started to progress. And, now we all know what he's going to wear on Sunday, and we all know how he looks. You don't even have to see his face. You can just tell from the shoulders down when Tiger, walks onto the range or walks up to the first tee.
Right. And so obviously it's changed so much, even in the past, like, call it like 2-3 years, or even the past year, because you've seen the emergence of hoodies being worn on the golf course. You've seen like people almost wearing like jogger pants, with like Eric Van Rooyen. What do you think of that? Are you a fan of that style? It seems like you'd like that.
Yeah, well, style evolves, and nothing wrong with hoodies. I mean, and I think joggers are great. Now, joggers are great on the right type of person. And on Eric Van Rooyen, or Sam Ryder, they look great, but most people don't look like Sam Ryder, 6'1", 175 pounds, hits the ball a mile, great guy, very fashionable, both of them were wearing Grayson, and they look great. So I think that's terrific when we see change. Mm-hmm. Golfers generally as a group, the older golfers or a little bit slower, to adopt this stuff today. If you want to dress a 60-year-old golfer, all you need to do is go down and buy a pair of khaki shorts and a white shirt, and he's going to be perfectly happy. If you do that, with your 18-year-old cousin, he's going to laugh you out of the room if that's what you bring in.
I think the whole thing is just like looking presentable. Like, some guys aren't going to look as presentable in a hoodie as others. So maybe it's not for them, but like, it's the same thing with shorts. I think, someone like JT, he's very fit. I think he would, pull off shorts very well, even though, I don't know if that's ever, or how soon it's going to happen that they're going to allow shorts to be worn on tour. But, hoodies can be made presentable, joggers can be made presentable. I don't think that like, the old fashioned thinking of like, how that's like kind of informal. I think that's all changing.
Yeah, I think it is too. Now, if you called up Phil today and asked him, he'd prefer to play, in shorts, but,
He's got killer calves,
great legs, and he loves to show them off. But my only problem with tour players on practice days when they wear shorts is, and I think particularly for the fans in the stands or behind the ropes, sometimes you can't tell whether it's a caddy or a player, that's walking down the fairway. So I don't know about you, but I play a little bit better when I wear, nice trousers and a nice shirt. I went to a little pop-up shop yesterday in New York City to see a little company called Sid Mashburn. And, they dress, probably the only guy on tour right now who really, really appreciates great style, Matt Wallace, who's, a terrific player. And he wears only cotton shirts and he wears wool trousers. He wears nothing that's synthetic. And he seems to be getting on perfectly fine, whether he's playing in the Sony in Hawaii or whether he's playing in November, in a stiff breeze at St. Simons Island, So, it works for him. And boy, he always looks great.
And yeah, speaking of like brands and players and how they collaborate, how much say do players really have in terms of like what they wear and like, what colors? Like me as a weekend golfer, I could go into my closet and say, I want to wear this pink shirt today. But like, as we've seen on social media and stuff like that, brands are posting the outfits out like weeks in advance from when they're playing.
Oh yeah, companies script, what we would call it scripting. Companies script out 6 to 8 months ahead of when the player is actually wearing those clothes. And this has been true for a long time now, that because the delivery cycle is getting even more extended as a result of COVID, companies are planning either, at least that far out. I mean, Matt told me yesterday that, he's already figured out, what he's going to wear at all of the majors next year. And if you called up Nike right now, they could, not that they would, but they could tell you exactly what all of their players are going to wear. Now, they've got so many players that for Nike, the reason why scripting is important is they don't want their tour players to look like they're part of a marching band. So they want to make certain that, that Bermuda blue shirt is not on everyone on Tuesday. So they script it, and, they always look great. I mean, and now that's what we see the week before the majors. Every single sort of blog that has anything to do with style or fashion or any dress, I mean, all of those blogs, they're filled with companies sending out these illustrations and photographs and sketches of what all the players are going to be wearing. So it's important. And now you go into the golf shop, at the PGA or the Ryder Cup, and you can buy the exact same thing that the players are wearing. So, I mean, it helps everyone.
Yeah,
What
I
are your
don't know.
thoughts on Nike's clothing? Like, I know Brooks and Rory, Finau, even sometimes they kind of wear some, I guess, more out there outfits than someone like a Dustin Johnson with Adidas or a Morikawa with Adidas. Like, they have the camouflage, the weird looking hats almost. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you can tell a lot about a player's personality from the way they put themselves together. We're chatting today about how the companies sort of provide all of this stuff for the players. Well, the players have a voice, and based on their personality, someone like a Brooks Koepka, he's going to speak up. He's going to wear, what he's comfortable wearing. And I can remember when Adidas first signed Dustin Johnson, I had a discussion with them at that exact time. We were talking about, here's a great athlete, 6'4", hits it a mile. And I remember saying to them, you could make him look 6'6" if you dressed him all in the same color. So he had blue trousers, a blue belt, a blue shirt. So you just see one color. You'd see one silhouette. Most people know I'm a little nervous around people that have white belts. And that's generally because a lot of people that wear white belts, are wearing a white belt with a pair of blue trousers, and they either look like a crossing guard or they're part of a marching band. But in that white belt cuts you in half. So, I don't think that that's a great look. So the players have a pretty good voice in what they're wearing. And in most all of these companies, Tyrrell Hatton, I think he sort of stumbled into, man, it's cold, and Adidas sent me these hoodies. I'm going to wear one of these hoodies today. It's freezing, but he wasn't the first one to wear a hoodie on tour. Justin Thomas was about 4 years ago at Riviera, which is played in, as you guys know, in March. It can get to be pretty chilly in March in LA if it's cloudy and that wind is blowing and you're at Riv. Well, he was, I was there one morning and he showed up, with a fabulous washable cashmere hoodie made by Ralph Lauren, Polo Golf. And boy, it looked terrific. And he wore it to warm up. And I said, "You're going to wear that when you're playing?" And he went, "Yeah, I'm going to wear it until it warms up outside." So, I think the players today have a much greater voice than perhaps they had 25 years ago, when they would just open a box of clothes and, oh, okay, well, I guess this goes with that. Now, some players are challenged by color. Little secret here, I don't know if you know that Jack Nicklaus
is sort of a little colorblind.
Oh,
So when he would pack for trips, Mrs. Nicholas would say to him, Jack, if you wear a patterned bottom, wear a solid top, or vice versa. If you wear a striped shirt, wear solid trousers. And those white shoes, they'll go with everything. So that's why if you look at all of these great photographs of Jack through the years, you'll notice that, that was sort of his mantra when it came to getting dressed. And, he always looked great, in 15 different sizes through his
Right.
career.
Yeah, I'm looking right
Yeah.
now. It's very noticeable. Like striped shirt, solid bottom, or like plaid bottom, solid shirt. Very noticeable.
Yeah, and it works.
Yes. Every time,
So-
every color too.
Yeah. So maybe that's a good lesson for everyone.
I'll have to take that into account the next time I'm putting together an outfit for a round.
I mean, and yeah, and so speaking about color, I feel like we can't go through color without discussing Ricky Fowler and the orange that he wears. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, he's very loyal to his school. He went to Oklahoma State. Their school color is orange. And he will wear orange, something orange, every single Sunday in every tournament. And, he's sort of made orange into, if you say golf and orange, people will say Ricky Fowler. So he's succeeded in sort of associating himself, just as Tiger has, with that Sunday red shirt. So, I think it's great. And I think you should dress to your personality. And that's one of my main ground rules is if you have to stand in front of the mirror for longer than 10 seconds, go change. Because as soon as you have some, this look okay, chances are, you're not gonna have that attitude. And if you dress good and if you look good and if you play good, those manufacturers will pay good. So thanks, Deion Sanders. But yeah, I mean, I think today having a signature is a really cool thing. Because think about that. How many other guys on tour have some sort of style signature? I mean, I guess we sort of associate, well, we've got orange with Ricky. We've got the red shirt with Tiger.
Got the mock neck with Tiger.
The mock neck. You know how that mock neck began? Tiger fell in love with that mock neck back when Cutter and Buck was doing the Ryder Cup uniforms for the U.S. team.
When was that?
Oh God, that was got to be 2000, the early 2000s.
I didn't know Cutter and Buck is that old of a brand. I feel like I've seen a lot of their new initiatives, marketing initiatives, but I didn't know that they were that old of a brand.
Oh, they've been around since the mid 90s, and they were in the old days, they were a really big player.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a huge business. And Joey Rodolfo, who was one of the founders of the company and their head designer, he had designed a shirt with a neck that was pretty high rather than having a collar. It just had sort of a higher neckline. Tiger had a cold. Tiger wore one of those shirts on Monday and absolutely loved it and said to Joey, hey, I love this. I'm going to wear this shirt all the time. This shirt is great. It works. And, since then, he's kind of put that mock neck on the map. Now, if you're Tiger Woods, you can wear that. And he's not the first one to wear a sort of a collarless shirt. I mean, if you look at pictures of Byron Nelson when he won 11 straight that year, he was wearing a beautiful plain white t-shirt, and he didn't get any letters from the club going, Mr. Nelson, you're going to have to, rethink your wardrobe a little bit. Byron Nelson was also, I think I should say the person that adapted the umbrella for the golf course. He didn't invent the umbrella, but he went to Haas Jordan, who was an umbrella maker in Ohio, and he requested that they make an umbrella for him that had a straight handle so he could either put it inside his golf bag or on the outside of his golf bag and it wouldn't catch on anything, and with a slightly larger canopy so that he could really make certain that he stayed dry. And I remember going to talk to him, I think it was 2004, at the tournament at TPC in Dallas. And I sort of fact checked that with him, and he said, yes, Haas Jordan was the company, and you've got the story straight. So, I feel pretty comfortable in sharing that with you.
That's really interesting. That's definitely something I feel like the normal person wouldn't just stumble upon, that kind of information.
Definitely.
So I actually had a question. So I was saying earlier that I didn't know Cutter and Buck, had been around that long. And I feel like in golf, a lot of companies kind of come in and out as big players. I think I feel like Cleveland Golf, just in like equipment at least, has done the same thing. They've kind of fallen out. What brands do you think that are like maybe on the smaller side right now, in fashion, in the world of golf, do you think are going to get bigger?
Well, I might be able to make some predictions when it comes to apparel, but I don't think I want to make any predictions when it comes to equipment or stuff like that. I mean, I happen to think, by the way, that the Cleveland, owns Shrixon.
Mhm.
And I think that Shrixon iron is, talking about style, I think that's probably, if I were going to pick an iron to play just based on style, I think I might have to go with that now.
Brooks Koepka.
Brooks likes it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brooks likes it.
Yeah, and Brooks seems to be very, very happy. But there are some smaller companies that are growing. You've got companies like Grayson that makes the clothes that Sam Ryder wears. A lot of their players, are very, very noticeable because they look very, very stylish, very, very purposeful. And, they're one of those companies that's growing beautifully. There are lots of young companies in the women's area, that are getting bigger and better and more available. So the marketplace sort of evolves. There's no earthquake here. There are smaller companies. Ashworth, by the way, is finally coming back. Ashworth and Cutter and Buck, which 20 years ago was some of the dominant brands in golf that have since faded away. Now some people have purchased the Ashworth name, and Ashworth is coming back into the marketplace. And John Ashworth, who was the founder of that company. He's got a brand called Link Soul, which is a little bit like, well, it's that California lifestyle. It's comfortable, it's casual. You can wear it on the golf course. You can wear it off the golf course. I mean, it's great stuff. You know, another company like that is Travis Matthew, where, you know, it's just got that laid back feel to it, that sort of California surf look. And it's comfortable and people love it.
Yeah. And there's, another one. So we've like partnered with this brand Roback over the past year, and we love.
Guys are great, Patrick.
Yeah, we love Roback.
Yeah, they're from Maryland, but I think one of the founders is from Connecticut and from Ridgefield and
Silver Spring.
Yeah, Silver Spring Country Club, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a great brand. You could only buy Roback. Roback, and when it started out, was only available online. I think now we're starting to see it more. I know that occasionally I'll see it in the style pages in Golf Digest and Golf Magazine. They'll be featuring one of the Roback styles, and the stuff looks great. There's another company that's growing right now that I think has really elegant golf apparel. It's called Holderness and Bourne.
They've sent us some stuff too. I love Holderness and Bourne. They're in a lot of pro shops. I know they're at like Seminole Golf Club, Wingfoot, I believe.
Yeah, you're dropping a lot of names here, Patrick. Yeah. I mean, they're probably at 1,000 golf clubs right now, which is pretty good distribution. And then underneath that Holderness and Bourne, I have a Lyle and Scott.
I have not heard of that one.
Shirt, and they're coming back into the market. And they're going to be exhibiting at the golf show in January. And it's an English company. Gosh, they've been around since the 19th century. And, they make some pretty stylish stuff. And, you're going to see them at some of the golf shops. You're going to probably see them. I bet you could see them right now on Trendy Golf. That's a great website for stylish, trendy merchandise. Those guys are way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I'm looking
at
right
some
now.
of their stuff right now. I like it. It's just definitely, it kind of reminds me of the Roback kind of stuff, and I like it a lot.
Yeah,
really cool.
Well, they have the cutting edge, if you will, style-wise. And, I think that's one of the great go-to websites. If I want to check on what's going on, that's one of the first places I'm going to look.
Right.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts on Phil? The all black, the dress shirt the long sleeve dress shirt that he's worn, where some of his outfits are a little out there as well.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about this one, guys, because for a couple of years, some time ago, probably 15 years ago, for 2 years, I helped Phil and Amy sort of sort out Phil's wardrobe. And I have to admit, I was the one that gave Phil that speech about if you wear all blue, if you wear all black, and I mean all black, you will create a much more impactful image. And, Phil, took that to heart. And I think Phil is pretty darn stylish today. And if you see him off the course, he also looks great. Now, here's someone who just carries himself with confidence no matter what he does. And we all know that Phil's the authority on pretty much everything.
Yeah, he so you're talking about like the all black, the all blue. How did he kind of take to that? Because I feel like if you tell him he's gonna look good in something, you know, Phil, I feel like Phil is like you say, he's very confident. How did he take to that? Did he?
Well, Patrick, I'm going to let you into on another secret.
Go ahead.
Sometimes the best way to get someone to buy into something is to just give them enough clues that they come up with a conclusion so that they feel in their mind, right, you know, if I had everything on the same color, it would create great impact. So if you let people discover things themselves, they tend to, you know, be a lot more loyal, you know, to their own sort of thoughts. And I think Phil's a great example of that. You know, it's like, I could tell you right now, just Google Seve. No matter what image you pick of Seve, you know, on the computer, he's going to look like $1 million. He's going to look great. Now, you know, one year Seve was wearing Boss. One year Seve was wearing, you know, Izod. But Seve, at the end of the day, always had like a great white shirt and a great pair of beautiful navy trousers, or a navy shirt and a, you know, pair of gray trousers, and he always looked great.
Yeah, so we're gonna put you a little bit on the spot here, just speaking about players. First off, who do you think has the best style of anyone that's played golf, pretty much? And then opposed to that, who do you think has the worst style?
Matt Wallace has the best style, hands down, of any player in golf, on any tour, on a global basis. And there's not even a discussion worthy about it. I mean, he'd look great throwing out the trash. Dustin Johnson also looks terrific all of the time. You know, whether he's getting out of his truck and going fishing, or whether he's hitting balls in the range. Anytime you see Dustin, and it's not like he's wearing fancy stuff, but he's wearing the right size, and he carries himself with such great confidence that, you know, he sort of sells it. So those are sort of examples of some guys that look good all the time. I mean, I would say almost all of the Grayson portfolio, guys like Sam Ryder. I mean, Sam always looks terrific. I would say for people that players, golfers that need help, I would say the entire Champions Tour. The entire tour, all of them.
They still stuck in the past.
Wrong size. They're into habits that they've had for 25 years. They're not about to change. And they got to start looking in the mirror a little bit. So, you know, because they break most of the rules. And they do it because it's familiar. You know, so then that's oftentimes, you know, why people keep doing it. I mean, it's familiar. That's what they know.
Yeah, can't teach a old dog new tricks, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we love Mark O'Meara, you know, but Mark O'Meara dresses like Mark O'Meara.
Right. Well, I mean, does anybody else have any questions? I feel like this has been a gold mine of quotes, you know,
I got
A
it.
to Z.
I got one more. We had Joe LaCava on, obviously. You gotta give us one Joe LaCava story, just so, because I know you know him pretty well before you go.
Yeah, you know, gosh, Joe's one of the really cool guys. And if you were writing a book on how to be a great caddy, there's no question that Joe would be, in most of that book. Trevor, I can remember seeing Joe on a Monday at 6:30 at night in March down at Sawgrass, just walking on the golf course and sort of stepping out yardages and just verifying the distances that he had in his yardage book. So when it came time for the tournament, he really knew, okay, about 7 yards in here, we've got these trees cutting in and you can't see it from the tee because it's on a different angle. And, Joe LaCava always did his homework. And I think Paul Tesori, all of the great caddies that are out there, they all do plenty of legwork, to get prepared. It's not like they just show up, shut up, carry the bag. I mean, they provide a support for the players. So, I think Joe's a great one, Trevor. And you had him on the show recently, didn't you?
Yeah, I think
We
we had him
did. We
back
had him
in
on March.
Yeah.
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 No, that was awesome. He's one of the nicer guys I feel like you can talk to in the golf world.
Yeah. Oh, he's great, and he's got a lot of that Fred Couples in him. He's very likable. He's very approachable. And, I see him around town. He's always got a kind word and, and a big smile and a big hello. And, as you know, Patrick, just from spending a little bit of time with him, he makes you feel like, you've known him for 20 years.
Oh yeah.
He just gives you that sort of, that comfort, right? I mean, and I think that's a special thing when people have the ability to do things like that.
Yeah, as we learned, just don't get on the wrong side of Tiger though around Joe. He'll come after you.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and I mean Stevie the same way. Yeah, I guess in my brief career on tour, I was probably one of the few journalists that ever actually spent some time with Stevie because, most of the beat writers that were writing about the play, they didn't want to get too close to Stevie. And he was a interesting person, caddied for some of the greatest players and knows a lot about stock cars too. So he's another person that's fun to get stuck at the airport with. That's always one of my great gauges about, a person. If you feel you could spend an hour and a half on a delayed flight to Florida and just, shooting the breeze with someone, a guy like Joe LaCava, geez, he'd be great company for an hour and a half.
Oh, definitely. That's a great way to assess, your friendship level with someone too. I feel like, would you want to spend an hour and a half in the airport with them?
Yeah. We all know how you feel about your spending an hour and a half with your older brother at the airport.
Yeah.
Or at least I know I do.
Yeah.
We love him, but he's always on my case.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on. I feel like you told us more than I could have hoped for. That was a really good time talking to you.
Well, I enjoyed it very much. Patrick, Trev, Greg, it was great. So, call me anytime.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll do.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you so
Thanks
much.
again.
Thanks for coming on.
Turn the light on when you get dressed in the morning.
Yeah, probably should.
Make sure.
See you guys.
See ya.
All
See you
the
later.
best.
Thanks again.
Bye.
All right. So that was 50 minutes with Marty Hackel. Right off the bat, I feel like I have to mention we did that interview a little bit ago, so it's not fresh in my mind, but I do have to say that was our best interview yet in terms of like actual content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Learned
he
a
knows
lot.
everybody in golf. He had something about everyone, like from Jack Nicklaus to Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson. He was just name dropping like everything.
Mhm.
So much knowledge about like just all the brands and like even just the new style. Yeah, it was really good.
Gave me a nice
knows?
little
We
jab
could-
at one point in the episode. It was funny.
We could potentially be having him on in another couple months too. The PGA show is in end of January actually. So
I think it's in January for
yeah,
sure.
so we could be having him on and again soon. Let's look out for that. No, it was an awesome interview. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. So look out for another interview sometime in, let's call it February, maybe March.
Yeah, and we'll definitely just try to get more interviews like in general for 2022, the Pin High podcast, first episode 2022.
Yep.
We definitely want more interviews, talk to more people around golf that, people we don't know, people we do know, like everybody has stories.
Precisely.
Yeah, golf is coming back this week, boys.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Can't wait. I mean, we'll get into that on Wednesday. I don't need to talk about it now, but yeah. So enjoy listening, or I hope you enjoyed listening to the Marty Hackel episode. We'll see you on Wednesday.